When you imagine a World War II submarine, you think of stealth, torpedoes, and courage under pressure. But what the iconic images never tell you is the true, inescapable horror of life below the surface. Because every U-boat, every one of Hitler's infamous iron coffins, was also a floating biohazard. It was a metal tube of absolute, unavoidable filth, mold, and rot. Ask any surviving U-boat veteran what the worst part of service was, and they won't talk about depth charges. They'll talk about the smell, a stench so potent, so layered, that it was scientifically impossible to ignore. A smell that stuck to your clothes, your skin, and your memories for life. Welcome to Gross History. We're diving deep into the U-boat, past the periscope and the torpedo tubes, to analyze the inescapable, disgusting reasons why the German U-boat was the most horrific environment to exist in during World War II. The primary source of the U-boat's vile aroma was the crew itself. These were Type 7 U-boats, compact, crammed, and designed for a crew of around 40 to 50 men. They were forced to exist in a space that was essentially a highly pressurized metal cylinder for patrols lasting anywhere from 4 to 8 weeks. The human element alone generated 3 disgusting layers of smell. Layer 1, the sweat and oil. U-boat life was physically demanding, and the temperature inside the hull could soar past 90 degrees Fahrenheit with 90% humidity. The men were crammed shoulder to shoulder, sweating constantly, often wearing the same heavy woolen uniforms for the entire patrol. Mixed with the sweat was the ever-present smell of diesel oil, hydraulic fluid, and electrical insulation, a gritty, mechanical perfume that coated everything. Layer 2, the vomit. Submarines are notoriously bad for seasickness. Below the waves, the boat pitches and rolls in 3 dimensions. For new recruits, or when the boat was forced into emergency maneuvers, the smell of fresh and drying vomit was simply an unavoidable reality. There was often no place to be sick except the floor, or into the already overwhelmed heads. Layer 3, the plumbing failure. In the cramped confines, there were usually only 2 toilets, or heads, and these were a complex, highly pressurized system that required careful operation. If a crewman used the wrong valve sequence, which happened under stress, the pressurized sewage would blow back into the boat. This event, known grimly as getting it wrong, meant human waste, undiluted, coating the compartment. And in a pressurized sub, there was nowhere for that odor to go. The crew had to eat, and the methods used to store, prepare, and dispose of food added exponentially to the odor problem. U-boats were packed so tightly that for the first week or 2 of any patrol, food was stored everywhere. Sausages, hams, bread, and sacks of vegetables were shoved under bunks, wedged into the engine room, and stuffed into the already cramped torpedo compartments. This created a situation where fresh food was slowly and inevitably decaying in hot, humid spaces, adding a growing rancid funk to the air. Cooking was done on small electric plates. The heavy-duty cooking fat and oil used for meals, like fatty pork and potato pancakes, would fill the air with thick, sticky grease. This grease settled onto the walls, the exposed piping, the beds, and the clothing, creating a permanent, rancid film that trapped all the other odors. Unlike surface ships, a submarine couldn't just throw garbage overboard. It would leave a telltale trail for the enemy. So, all food waste, scraps, and empty containers had to be compressed and stored within the hull for the entire month-long patrol. The resulting smell of rotting meat and spoiled cabbage in a sealed container was a constant, vile presence. If the human and food waste wasn't enough, the fundamental mechanics of the submarine itself created toxic, heavy odors. A U-boat ran on massive lead-acid batteries when submerged. These batteries, when charging or in heavy use, would off-gas hydrogen and sulfuric acid vapor. This vapor was toxic, dangerous, and gave the air a sharp metallic burn that irritated the throat and eyes. Worse still, if any seawater leaked onto the batteries, it would generate chlorine gas, a truly deadly substance that added a final, chemical layer to the U-boat's bouquet. When running on diesel engines on the surface, fresh air was taken in, but when submerged, the air was entirely recycled. The oxygen level would drop dangerously, and the carbon dioxide level would rise. As the patrol dragged on, the air became thick, stale, and heavy with the cumulative scent of unwashed bodies, stale breath, and drying mold. They were essentially breathing a constantly reheated broth of their own existence. The need to conserve fresh water meant the men almost never bathed or shaved for weeks at a time. The result was a pervasive body odor that, when combined with the diesel and the spoiled food, became a unique, horrifying signature. The smell, in short, was a cocktail of sweat, oil, spoiled food, and battery acid, all pressurized into a metal tube. The U-boat commander, Gunther Prien, once described the smell as a composition of stale, unwashed bodies, oil, fuel, and decay. It was the smell of fear and sacrifice. The crew developed a tolerance, a form of olfactory blindness, but the smell remained. It became part of the environment, part of the terror, and part of the psychological pressure that wore down the men, month after month. The German U-boat was a revolutionary machine of war, but its true legacy is not just in its victories or defeats. It's in the unseen, gross reality of life inside that metal coffin, a hellish stench that clung to its men until the day they returned home, and often long after. What other gross, unsanitized truths from the past do you want us to uncover? Let us know in the comments below. And if you want more history that goes beyond the textbook, hit that subscribe button now.